Welcome to Gather. I honestly, you are such a pioneer in this field. It is such a privilege to have you with us. So
Oh,
excited. So, do you want to just start for those who don't know you? I mean, who doesn't know you? But tell us a bit about who you are and where you grow.
yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks for having me on Gather. My name's Rachel Siegfried, and I have a flower farm called Green and Gorgeous. And I would, when I started, we've been going for 15 years, I called myself a cut flower grower. But now I would say I'm a flower farmer because we have got a bit bigger since then. And also, I am a florist as well. Um, we're in Oxfordshire, right next to the River Thames. We grow on 5 acres of land, which has been a gradual process. So we started off with about an acre, and over those 15 years, we've grown it to 5, and I'm definitely stopping there. We've anyway, so that's that.
It's really
What
interesting what
else?
you say about the flower farmer and the flower grower and the florist and all those titles, because I remember, I mean, you're 5 years ahead of me because I'm sort of 10 years in now, but you were very much the first person that I think was really doing this properly, was really doing this at scale. And I think when you see some of the pictures of your growing spaces, they are beautiful, but you can see you're growing at scale, and it's just so impressive. And I think it's such an inspiration that, to the rest of us, that this was something that we could do properly. I hate saying that because
For a living.
yes, everyone's growing has its own merits and its own strengths. But yes, for a living, but yeah, with some integrity and not just as a bit of a sort of, a fluffy thing on the side. So yeah, I think you're
Mm.
very much the
Yeah.
leader in that and so
Oh,
inspirational.
thank you. I mean, it really came out of needs must, to be honest with you. I just been made redundant, and I've been sort of toying with the idea because I was already growing cut flowers as part of my job. So I had that kind of feeling that it was something that could work. But then, got made redundant. A bit of land came up for rent, and I just thought, what have I got to lose? So I think when you're in that where you've already lost everything almost,
Yeah.
your job, it was a tied accommodation, my home. I just thought, what have I got to lose? Let's just give this a go. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just go back to being a gardener, a paid gardener, and that's fine. So I
Mm.
wasn't afraid. I was just excited. And I think because being called a pioneer is really nice, but I mean, no one else was really doing it. And and that in a way was quite good because I didn't have anything to compare myself with. And I think sometimes that can put you off. Sorry, my dog's whining.
I did just suddenly think,
Sorry.
what dogs is that? Because they're all sat around me asleep, but that one's, yes.
I'm just gonna let him in.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No, not at all.
Come on, don't be annoying. Yeah, I think it's often. I just think when we all get into that, don't we? Especially nowadays with social media, that you compare yourself, and sometimes that can inhibit you in what you do. But if you're just doing something that no one else is doing, you have free reign. You can be really fresh and innovative with your approach, and I think that did me a big favor actually.
I'm going to hold on to that because I think I'm a bit the opposite. It's a bit like I have to see it to know that I can do it. So, and actually, weirdly, in Gather, I often feel, oh my God, what am I doing? Because I think it was a bit different now with Patreon and all that sort of lots of different things now. But I was very much the first to be doing something like this. And there's a bit of a sense of I'm just sort of making this up as I go along. I think
Yeah, well,
so.
that's good though. I think that's good, and
It, yeah,
I sometimes have to now, it's great actually that there's so many more, that the awareness of cut flowers and there's flowers on the farm and over 1,000 members. It's really positive, generally for the environment and the public. I mean, no one had any idea when I was selling cut flowers at first. They just were so shocked. to see, flowers from a local grower.
Yeah.
Stop
And
people in their tracks.
yes, I think that has been such an amazing change in the last, well, 15 years for you, 10 years for me, but just that idea that people understand the impact of the decisions they make around flowers. And actually there's something so much more wonderful and joyful about getting flowers from somewhere beautiful that's really local to you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, when I would, I was doing farmers markets, and I would have women crying, like literally getting really emotional. Can't remember any men, but definitely women. And that was, to me, that made me even more certain that I was on the right path, that I had found what was right. And I was so determined. And I still am, actually. That I just kept pushing on with it, even when things were really difficult. It was like, no, this is right. This is what people want. And that felt really good.
yes. And tell us a little bit about where you grow, because I have been, it took me too long to get to you, but when I did get to you, I was so excited, so excited. I'm driving in, just thinking, oh my God, I'm here. So I came on a road day in June, a few years ago now.
Oh, that's right.
Joe
Yeah, I remember.
Flowers was doing,
Yes.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
so we had a lovely demonstration for the incredibly talented Joe Flowers,
Mm.
and then a tour around, and then you basically told me that all of the roses that I'd ever grown were useless for cutting, and I'd have to either finish tunnel or just rip them all out and replant them. So I was like, oh, whoops. Oh well, I'll go rose.
Oh, oh, I'm sure they weren't all. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was I supposed to be saying? That the
But just describe your beautiful growing space and what you have there.
Well, gosh, we are now up to 4 tunnels, which aren't particularly beautiful, but I kind of love them because of what you can do, what you can grow in them. Two are rose tunnels, so those are Spanish tunnels, which just means it's what soft fruit grows. It just it has a cover, a summer rain cover. And then, yeah, the rest, I mean, gosh, 3/4 of the 5 acres is now all perennials and shrubs. So I've really, hence the book, I've really moved over to permanent plants. So it has, quite a sort of lived in, grown in look about it, I guess, which is nice.
Tell me why you did that. Tell me why you have gone so heavy on perennials and committed so much to them.
Well, over the years, as we all know, the climate has, and even in the past 15 years, I've noticed the climate changing just in the time I've been at Green and Gorgeous. The first few years, I would say, were like the honeymoon period, and I think a lot of growers can identify with this when they get onto new ground and they sow all those annuals and everything grows with abundance. Ammi is amazing, sweet peas towering. And then you think, this is so easy. I'm just getting bucket loads. Gosh, I mean, why didn't I do this sooner? But about 3 or 4 years in, that started to get harder. And I think it was a combination of climate change. And it was also that I was really, I was growing too intensively with the annuals and not really understanding the soil that we know so much more about now, and how to take care of your soil. No dig wasn't the thing, or as far as I knew. I didn't know about no dig. So I was then really struggling to keep up with the demand had outstripped supply, and I was struggling with crop failures and keeping up with all my wedding work, all my orders. And so I needed plants that were more dependable. And I often found when we had these extreme weather events, like the summer of 2012, where it just rained constantly, all my annuals just rotted, literally rotted in the field. The droughts that we've had over the past few years, that it's always the perennials that come through for me. They are the weather tolerant plant group, and the shrubs. And so, of course, as I see this happening more and more, I move towards these plants. I know these plants because I come from a garden design background, so I had good knowledge of many of them anyway, and many of them are just really common perennials that many of us already, that we grow. And I think the other thing from a floristry point of view is they create a difference. I think we all can agree on that.
Although
We all grow the same annuals, don't we, really?
yes, but there's always a bit of a joke that if you're really stuck as a florist, you can go to a supermarket car park.
Yes.
So many of those absolute plant and forget bomb-proof.
It's so true. I mean, like Brachioglottis Sinecchio. Love that plant. I mean, not as a shrub, as a supermarket car park shrub. You think, oh my God, that's so ugly, especially if it flowers. But as a cut foliage, it's much more stylish, isn't it?
But there's some really amazing, and they are those absolute bomb-proof. It doesn't matter if it rains, it doesn't matter if it bakes, it doesn't matter if the ground is poor, particularly. They're just there doing it. If you get them through the first sort of 18 months, 2 years, they will just grow on quite happily with people, trampling over them to get to the trolleys and all sorts of things.
Yeah. And then also you can
keep them in there.
Yeah, you can cut them hard. You can really pick, harvest from them. And you're still getting an abundance of regrowth and stems. And I mean, of course, that is music to any flower farmer's ears, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you're not going to tire the plant too much.
Yeah.
So another important thing in the choice of perennials and shrubs. And I mean, I think the other thing to say about them is they fill the gaps. So yes, still grow annuals, but we get these gaps, don't we?
Yeah.
So, like I always call it the May gap between the spring bulbs and the hardy annuals, where we have this yawning kind of like everything's green in May, there's no flowers, there's loads of weddings, it's a nightmare. So there are plenty of perennials that will come in, and flowering shrubs, of course, things like viburnum and lilac, that will really do the job for you in that tricky month. And of course, they extend the season.
Yeah.
So I've just started picking things like cherry plum blossom, which I love. We all love. What have I got? I've got something back here. Oh, pussy willow.
Yes.
Narcissi. I mean, you wouldn't have any annuals right now. So when people say, oh, well, perennials just they don't give you as much, I just don't agree with that. I think they can give you at times when there's not as much of anything else. And they also can be picked at different stages in their life cycle.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 cuts from some of these plants.
And I think just in terms of, I mean, there's so many pros in terms of sustainability, in terms of, you're not digging over your soil, you're not disturbing your soil, you're not that sort of constant disrupting of your microbiome in your soil, but also I am starting a lot of perennials from seed, and I know I'm going to do it once, but it isn't half a faff. And I'm sort of, everything's, damp kitchen paper and potting on and pricking out and keeping an eye on everything. There's quite a lot of plastic and a lot of bags of compost and lots of other stuff that real intensive cultivation of annuals, which I'm going to do once for so many of my perennials, and then that's it. I'm not going to do it again. And so I think it just works at so many levels in terms of sustainability for perennials.
It so does. I mean, one of the things I thought about during COVID, when we had the first lockdown in March 2020, and I had all these annuals on their way. And of course, I didn't really have a market for them anymore. But with the perennials, I didn't really mind. They're not wasted, are they? You just think, well, never mind, they'll come back next year anyway. So it takes a lot of pressure off you as well. I think as we all get a bit older, we want, I call it natural ease. The perennials give you natural ease, to be a bit relaxed, to not work quite as hard physically.
Yeah.
I am at the moment, because it's a busy time at the moment for perennials, but generally it's easier, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, it's lower impact. You're not using as much plastic, compost, heat, etc.
Yeah. So before we talk about the book, sorry, I've got Hugo barking. I don't know why, just something set him off.
Well, mine will start in a minute.
like chain reaction.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're super busy getting ready for your book publication, but you have also been out in the garden. So what have you been doing with your perennials? We're early March, just for those who are watching.
Yeah, so I'm busy. Well, I'm mainly I've sown most of my perennial seed. I usually start that off in February. So I'm actually now at the pricking out stage, because I tend to sow them in little seed trays, get them started on bottom heat in the propagator, bring them out under a grow light, and then I prick them out into modules. And then hopefully I'll just plant those modules, those plugs, straight out into the garden without having to do the potting up stage.
Yeah.
Compost.
So
I'm doing that.
I've gone Ziploc bags this year.
Yeah.
So sorry. I cannot believe how well it's done. It's almost exclusively perennials, but just the germination rate is blowing my mind. So, but yes, it does mean that I've absolutely overcated, and I now have hundreds of Rebecca. I need to plant somewhere, hundreds of everything. So yes, I've run out of windowsill space, but yes, very much growing from seed at this time. Although, just going back to something we're talking about in terms of natural ease, which I love, and I might write on a post-it note and stick somewhere. Perennials are so much more generous in terms of propagation, so cuttings and getting division and all of those things, which you can really fill a space, I think, much more quickly and much more sort of meaningfully. Annuals, you can chuck them around and they grow once and then they're gone, but perennials, you can really bulk up a collection.
Yeah, and like you were saying, you sow those perennial seeds once, and many of them you're just going to be dividing from now on, aren't you? I mean, the easiest way to propagate. I mean, at this time of year, we're starting to, of course, we're doing division. Not quite yet. We're cutting back at the moment and mulching, but we will be dividing in March. And we'll be doing basal cuttings. That's another way that I propagate a lot of those perennials. I'm a big fan of going to plant fairs and finding, that one special, say, aster that I've never seen anywhere else, but it's really expensive. And you just buy like one little 9 centimeter pot. But then, of course, you grow it on, and then you can take basal cuttings and have 20.
You are talking to the person that I went to East Lambrook, which has a lovely nursery, and I did buy lots of very expensive snowdrops on exactly that premise, which is, well, they'll last forever, and they will divide. They'll naturally populate.
Yeah, that's why I always tell myself when I'm buying plants, it's like, it's an investment.
Yeah. And I do. Right. I think annuals are like, I call them the Smarties of the seed world, because they're so cheap and they're so sort of wonderful.
Yeah, they're like the sugar rush, aren't they?
The sugar rush of the
sugar rush. But I mean, I'm not I still grow a lot of annuals, like I say. I do think there is a place for them for sure. But I think a backbone of annuals, just so you can manage it all. If you're doing it as like I am for a living, you just and also gives you, there is a difference in the quality of perennials for, as in an arrangement compared to annuals. Perennials are a bit more nuanced, aren't they? They tend to be a bit muddier, subtler. I mean, I know I'm massively generalizing here, and you say that about a peony, but I guess I'm thinking most perennials are really supporting. I when I think of them as a group, I think of them as supporting flowers mostly. There's a few focal kind of showstoppers, and they tend to be more textural and, like I say, just a bit more subtle than an annual.
Things sound wonderful. I'm quite happy for anything to be, a bit more muddy and a bit more textured and a bit more.
Yeah, that's it. That's
so.
Yeah, me too. So
which, I know I hate asking this question because I know I hate answering it, but what are your top desert islands?
Oh God.
I know, I'm sorry. And I am going to write them down, and I am going to source them as soon as you've told me.
Well, I mean, I'm quite fickle, like we all are, it's always of the moment. But I suppose when I think about what my favorites are, I think of the ones that are the most useful. Maybe that just actually comes from my kind of the business point of view. the ones that I pick and pick, and they are quite sort of easy things to grow from seed, like bladder campion, which I think we've all got now.
Yes, we have. Yes. Now I won't like blushing lanterns was just
Yeah,
the
I mean,
campion.
it's just fantastic.
Hilariously, I harvested so much of it last year because I grow it and have it, around the place. I still bought some of yours though, just in case it was different.
Yeah, just in case. So that's great. And I mean, I suppose I like the things that fill the gaps. So, like I was saying about May, many of my favorites are in May. So we've got Williams, of course, because I'm so grateful.
Yes.
You've got something. Just for a slight little difference, the ranunculus, the buttercup citrin, which is
Oh, it's my neighbour.
like a very pale yellow meadow buttercup, and that's one that you can grow from seed.
Yes,
it's beautiful. It really is. Not only is it great because it's coming when there's not much else around, but it is just also astonishingly beautiful.
yes.
And it's easy to propagate.
I have 3 seedlings from an October sowing, and I have put more in on the Everhot to start germinating. Thinking 3 was enough. So
no,
I'm definitely growing more.
Yeah. And once you've got it, like I say, it doesn't spread like a normal buttercup. It's not going to take over, but it does clump. And so then you can divide it.
Yeah.
So you got it then.
Yes.
And it's good. It comes true from seed. It doesn't revert back to your normal buttercup. Not that there's anything wrong with one of those.
But it will spread.
Yeah. What else? I mean, I do love, I mean, obviously shrubs are in my book as well. And I do love things that are just standalone in an arrangement where you're just doing one thing, single genus, standalone arrangements. And I think shrubs, especially flowering branches, you can't beat them.
I totally agree. So I had a jug, I mean, it was a big jug of the white Japanese quince. And I swear it was on my kitchen table for weeks. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it just as it was coming out, and then it just went and went and went. And my cottage is so cold, things last, so it was fine, and it was just astonishingly beautiful.
Yeah, that is on my wish list. Those Japanese quince, I need to get some.
And the white is so much earlier than all the other colours.
Yeah, so I've heard that. Is it Nivalis? Is that the one? Yeah.
And I mean, there are lots of things that I don't like about quince, just in terms of where it flowers on the branch, and sometimes it's a bit tricky, and it grows as a thicket, not as a bush. Although I was somewhere yesterday and I saw like a coral coloured one, and it was a bush, and it was literally just flowering on all its tips. And I thought, how did you do that? I think the council had just like trimmed it. It was just on the side of the road in Plymouth, weirdly, but it just looks stunning.
Well, that's the thing, you go around like the suburbs or in towns and you get ideas, because I mean, most of these shrubs I grow, they are just your standard garden. But there's nothing really that fancy. It's just kind of looking at them in a slightly different way and knowing that a big jug full of those of flowering stems just looks absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Without any over arranging. They don't need nothing. None of this needs to be over arranged.
No.
In my own home, I don't do any over arranging. I literally just grab a handful of something. I'm sure we all do this. People, wedding florists, etc. They don't have the energy, do they?
Leftovers.
Just grab a handful, shove it in a vase, and you're very happy with it.
Absolutely. Yes, I know. My husband's always like picking up bits and saying, is this dried, or is this just dead? Is this like, was this a thing, or is it just dropped off your jumper when you've come in from gardening? Quite knows quite what we've got, but yes, I think absolutely. And some of I think about when I first started out, some of the things that most inspired me, that sort of very Brooklyn sort of just massive branch arrangements like magnolia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, magnolia. They feel like such a treat, don't they?
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that's the thing. These woody cuts, it's quite decadent in a way to have really large scale, you know, in a big jug or a giant pickling jar or something. I mean, it's all from that wonderful book, Bringing Nature Home, isn't it? That was so, I found that book so inspiring. I
Yeah.
think that's, if you look at that book, that's mostly perennials and shrubs in there.
Yeah, and I do feel like we have come full circle. And I think, although I think the advice to most people I know, I did a gather interview with Millie Proust about 2 years ago now. And when I sort of said at the end, what advice would you give people starting out? She said, shrubs, just go now. Go now.
Oh yeah,
Shrubs.
so
Because
true.
they'll take the time to come through. But you're right,
Yeah.
I think they are the backbone because you can
Mm.
yeah, you can get such drama out of scale. And to do scale,
Yeah.
I
And
think,
actually, so mentioning scale, that's a good point because, you know, many of the perennials can give you that scale as well. There's a whole section in my book about tall perennials that don't need staking. You know,
that's it. Yeah.
it's, yeah, they're as tall as me, not that I'm particularly tall, but, you know, 5 foot, something like that, that will grow in a year and give you that. If you're doing wedding work or you need large scale arrangements, whatever, you know, Galega, goat's rue. I mean, that's a great example. Um, uh, Persicarias, some of the Persicarias are brilliant. Cephalarias, but the things like Bidens, Rudbeckias, you know, they all, it tends to be later flowering,
Yeah.
more sort of, you know,
I
sorry.
I would not be without my sanguisorbas.
Oh God, yeah,
The
Sankey definitely.
I can never remember. It's cranberry something or cranborn
Oh,
something.
I know. Oh, yes.
But it, I mean, that's,
I
I mean,
know.
I'm 5'10" and it's significantly taller than me, and just flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers and flowers. Like it just
Mm.
keeps going and is the most perfect color, the most perfect texture. It's no, you're right, it doesn't need staking. It's just
Yeah, that is actually to going back to desert island perennials. Sanguisorba would always be on my in my top 10. And I've got a whole I've got quite a few sanguisorbas from early because you know you can if you plan it right, you can have sanguisorbas in May right through to the one you're talking about, the cranberry one, which is more like the end of summer. So you can really do the whole season with them.
mm. I'm not always mad keen on some of the yellowier ones that look a bit fluffy. I'm not a great fan of that. They always remind me of like
You're right. They often look scruffy, don't they? It's
yeah.
a very narrow window of opportunity. Can't, you've got to get them at the sort of tight hazel catkin stage, not when they suddenly go all fluffy and then just look really messy and
Yeah,
gone.
yeah,
Yeah.
like cotton wool gone wrong.
Yeah.
But we've started on the book, so
Yes. Yes. The book.
the book. So I'm absolutely thrilled about this because I think it is going to be the textbook. So I was just saying, you know, lots of people like me have been writing these funny little lifestyle books, which have been wonderful and fun and everything. But this is not fun. This is exciting. This is going to be revolutionary.
Oh
It's going
no.
to be defining people growing cut flowers and people who garden for cut flowers for the house for some time, I think. And so it's
Oh,
all
I
been
hope
waiting for.
so. I really hope so. I mean, it's a book I wanted to write for quite some years. It'd been brewing for 4 or 5 years, and I was, you know, I think I sort of saw Anna Mumford, who's my publisher, Filbert Press, on one of those tea time talks with Garden Masterclass. I don't know if you've ever checked those out. They're really good. And I thought, yes, that's who I want. I want her to be my publisher. As soon as I saw her, I just thought she's so right for me. And so I sent her, I think it's called a glimmer, which is the proposal. Apparently it's glimmer. And I basically gradually sort of wore her down over a few months until she said, yes, I want to do this book with you. And then I was terrified. You know, suddenly it was all going to happen. And I was utterly terrified. I mean, I have done a book before. This is my second book, but this is like my book, you know.
Yeah.
No, Jessie, sorry, my dog's hassling me. So yeah, I was really because I didn't feel that confident about writing. I was quite nervous about it all.
Is writing your thing though? Because I know, I've read your blog for years and I always get a sense that you're quite comfortable with writing.
No, I'm not.
No, that's not. Okay.
No. So it was to me, it was a really big challenge. I know that we all find that. Anyone that's written a book knows how much work it is and how challenging it is for sure. And it was all of that. Yeah, very challenging.
Did you have to someone shut you in a room and tell you not to come out until you'd written 1,000 words and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm very self-disciplined. So I would go if I ever got a block or whatever, I just did a lot of dog walking and sort of muttering to myself. Yeah, and recording things on my phone as they came to me and getting the flow is the flow. So sometimes the flow was really good and I felt really great, and other times, and I mean, everyone says this about writing a book. What I really enjoyed about it was the photography. So Eva Nemeth did a lot of the amazing photography in it. And
Member of Gather, she's done so
yeah,
much for us in terms of photography. Love her. We're all great fans.
yeah, great fans of Eva. She's amazing. And we already knew each other. She lives down the road, and it was just, I was always going to ask for Eva. That was just a given. But then they said, well, look, there's a lot of photography in this book because it's got a very large plant directory. And so you'll have to do that. So I've photographed all of the plant directory because, of course, everything's here, and that took many hours. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's a whole, I mean, I photograph a lot, and I mean, to do a book like that is a whole other discipline, really. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot about photography from Eva. And she really helped me, like, how to do Lightroom and everything, so that our photographs have a similar quality, and we would photograph them at the same time of day. Everything was done pretty much dawn.
I was going to say, what with her living quite so close by, that's lucky because so much of that is sort of 5 o'clock in the morning come June.
Yeah, we did a lot of early mornings together.
Yeah.
And that was great. So yeah, I think that's the bit I enjoyed the most. Yeah. And then of course putting it all together. So it was a year of writing, photography, and then another year of bits and bobs, a bit more of that, but also really designing. Well, there was a designer, sorry, I should say, but kind of choosing which photographs to use. And getting the whole like structure of it, which is I also really enjoyed.
Yes, I think those bits, because sort of the slightly terrifying bit is that I think is the sitting down with the blank page, and I think once you've got past the blank page stage, it does definitely get a lot funner until right at the end, and then you're just like, oh my god, this is so permanent, and the decisions that I make I can't go back on when it's in the last few weeks.
Yeah, you're so right. You get a little bit of fear, don't you? It's almost at the end and you almost want to pull it back and say, well, but wait, I'm not sure.
And they send you the copy and say, this is the last one that's going to press. If you see a typo, you need to say so. And I'm like,
yeah. Oh, and then when that first copy came in the post, and I didn't want to open it. I actually felt a bit sick, and I didn't look at it for about 3 days. I just would lift up the front cover and then be like, no, I just can't. It's taken me. It's very personal. In a way, it's a very personal book for me. But yeah, I have tried my best to absolutely pack it with everything I know about the subject. So,
wow.
I want it to be a source book. That's why it's called that. I want it to be a book that stays on people's shelves, and I've got books like that. We all have those books, don't we?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, there we are. You just hang on a minute. Let me just look at that again. that's what I want it to be. And that's why I asked Anna Mumford to be my publisher, because her books are those books.
Yeah.
She specializes in really content rich. So hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when is it out?
It's out on March the 23rd.
Right.
Yeah, so not long at all.
And where can we find you on socials, and where's your hanging out places online that we can read more of your work with your book?
Well, I mean, obviously I do Instagram, but I've got quite a few events. I'm going to be quite busy over the next few months.
Yeah.
I'm having a book launch at the Garden Museum on the 4th of April, and I'm going to be in conversation with Claire Foster, the House and Garden editor. So I think that'll be a good event for people in the kind of London area. But I do think it's also being live streamed, because I know it's quite a lot of hassle to get in. So I think that would be good. I'm doing some events in Bath. I'm going to be at the Toppings Bookshop, my favourite bookshop. So I'm excited about that.
What date's that?
That is April the 11th.
Okay.
No, yeah, I think that'll be really nice. That's an evening event in their gorgeous bookshop. So I'm really looking forward.
I am not reading enough to check my diary as we're talking, but as soon as we've finished, I will check my diary.
Yeah, because I guess that's more I'm trying to move around the country a bit and do. I'm doing Dalesford, so I'm up in the Cotswolds to do a talk there. Gosh, this is all April.
Gosh, you are going to be busy.
Oh, tell you, I know. And I've already done a few things. I was doing a podcast up in London last week. I'm doing a podcast with Sarah Raven, but I'm also doing a day with her in June, which I love going to. Yeah. I'm so excited about that.
Wow. I will make sure there is a link to all your events and also a list of where you're going to be.
Thank you.
Goes with this video. I mean, I'm going to do a plug for, I am going to be coming to a tulip day on the 25th of April for this, which I'm very excited about. I just treated myself. I had one of those sort of must go. So that's you and Polly of Baines and Flowers.
Yeah, and I mean her tulips. I'm excited to see her tulips and about those.
Yes.
That day, I'm kind of like, I said to Claire Foster, who's organising it for Maggie's, that I will also have lots of other spring flowers, because I'm kind of quite a big ranunculus girl. So I'm probably going to be pushing those as well quite heavily.
I've got the weekend after is the bank holiday weekend, which is when I'm doing Beltane in Cornwall. So I did say to Joanna Game the other day, shall I go and collect the tulips? Because she's getting some beautiful historic tulips from Polly for the event. So I might just take loads of ranunculus as well.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Having splurged on some flowers that she didn't want me to bring, but I'm bringing anyway.
So tell me about Beltane. Is that?
Beltane, it's going to be a wonderful weekend retreat at the most amazing barn in Pusher Cove in Cornwall. So Bex Partridge is there with Joanna Game doing flowers, and Jackie Mills.
It rings a bell, actually. Yeah.
So she has gardened for Arnie Maynard and Sarah Price, and she also does some amazing work with Alison at Damson Farm. She's done lots of courses there.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful. But she's coming to do illustration. And Britt Willoughby Dyer is coming to teach people photography.
Oh, I love her photography. She's got a whip it.
I love her, and I think she's fabulous. So so it's just going to be a weekend in this amazing venue.
Oh, how nice. Oh, I wish I could come.
Yeah.
That sounds so good.
I'm really looking forward to it. So so I'm there as a sort of a writer and a creative coach. So I'm there with my psychologist hat on, because they didn't need another one. So Joanna's making me, come and do other things and talk about why sometimes we terrify ourselves with things that on the on the outside shouldn't be terrifying, but somehow we
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting. Yeah. Sort of challenging yourself, like
yeah,
writing a book and
like writing a book. And
all
why,
those things.
yeah, why sometimes creativity gets so affected by our sense that it's going to be consumed by other people. It's so rarely the actual writing, it's the sense that somebody else might read what we've written and what they might think.
Yes. Yeah, this is almost the scariest part of the whole book process, isn't it? As it goes out into the world and people that you really respect, your contemporaries, that is a hard one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean,
Yes.
you probably, when you did your book, you must have found that
Oh,
quite
absolutely.
nerve-wracking.
Absolutely. And I had to play all sorts of weird psychological tricks on myself to protect myself. So I did lots of, oh, I don't really like it. It's not really my book. Like, I don't really, like, I didn't feel I invested in it that much. Just so, like, if anyone said, I think this is rubbish, I could say, well, it's not really.
Yeah, there's another one in the pipeline.
Yeah, the second book's the important one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's so
Oh,
funny. Our relationship with creativity, particularly around how we, how we feel other people will judge us for it and how we see ourselves. And there's lots of interesting identity stuff wrapped up in it, especially around, I think, how that was framed at school, particularly. But yeah, it's fascinating.
yeah, you see that interesting you say about school, because I mean I remember being in lots of trouble in English language and having to see the teacher after class because I'd written a really crap poem, and so I think that yeah, which I thought I'd really put a lot of work into, but she was actually quite annoyed because she thought it was so rubbish. So
Oh,
I think that's where my insecurity about writing comes from.
yes. Well, I had a bit the opposite, which is I very self-identified as quite scientific and quite geeky. So I love words and I love writing, but I don't self-identify as creative at all. So if people say,
Right.
oh, you must be so creative, I'm like, I'm not. I'm really not. I can copy people and I can break down what people have done and I can learn from them, but I have not a creative bone in my body. Just,
Yeah, we all get these labels, don't we?
yeah, we
Uh,
take them with us and I think they hold us back in some ways and keep us safe in others. And, we weave around them in a way of, yeah, finding our way.
yeah, yeah, no, but all credit to anyone that puts themselves out there, and yeah, I think so, because it's
Brené
not.
Brown says, we're in the arena. If you're in the arena,
Mm,
you get to have an opinion. If you're not and you're just criticizing from the sidelines, you really don't. But yeah,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah. Well, she's good, Brené Brown. She's solid on things like this.
Mm,
Vulnerability.
yeah.
Well,
Mm.
I absolutely cannot wait for the book to come out. And I will be
Well,
carrying.
yes, I think you're getting a copy. You should be getting it very, very shortly,
Oh,
actually.
I was so hoping you were going to say that, but I
Yeah.
wasn't.
Oh, yeah. No,
I wasn't
you're.
enough to ask.
No, it really literally should be arriving, because I know they're going out to people at the moment, so it should be with you very shortly. Yeah.
It's very exciting. And when it comes out, I will buy one because I believe that women should be rewarded for their labor and not everything given away for free. And I will do a giveaway and gather for a member to win a copy of your book too. Because
Oh,
I'm afraid
lovely.
I can't give away the copy that you're going to. But I might bring it to you for you to sign and then.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide what sort of pen I should use for signing. I was thinking a Sharpie. Apparently Sharpies are good.
Erin goes for Sharpies from Florette. She does just a big squiggle. I went for a very fine nibbed, just like a rollable ink, because I had a little message in each of mine. But then you'll have to,
Okay.
do you put people's names in or do you not? Because what if they're buying it for somebody else? And so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Right. I might go and get a selection of pens then.
Yeah,
Ready.
Pepper Chase is having closing down sales. Get a bunch of Paper Chase rollables.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a few. You'll need a few because I'm sure you have loads to sign. But,
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
it has been such a pleasure, and I'm so thrilled to be seeing you in person soon. Oh gosh, Hugo.
Yeah, and look at him. Look at that face.
He's it is walk time. He's looking out the window, so he watches for the neighbours to come home and my husband to come home because it's time for a walk then. But yeah.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to you, Grace. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you shortly, soon.
Yes, and on behalf of Gather, just thank you very much for sharing all of your knowledge and your experience. We're incredibly grateful for your time. So thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you.